Starting Stepdad here. I'm going to do something other than a gear review. I'm going to be teaching you how to use a tent or an emergency blanket to make a makeshift tent. The items you would need for this: rope, twigs to use as posts and tent stakes, poncho, or the emergency blanket, which is nifty when it comes into this. So you have it. Now, I'm going to start with measuring out the rope. Okay. I got one end already with a slip knot because I'm used to always having an end like that. But if you don't have it, you take this end, you put it down on the ground, step on it with the heel, and go all the way, run it all the way to the front of your toe. Then you take the string and you go all the way up till your arm's fully extended. Okay. That way, make sure you have room to make another slip knot, and you're not going to be banging your feet or your head on your posts. What you'll do is take your knife, this knife's been sticking a little bit, and you cut your rope. Alright, extra rope you can throw off to the side. Now, when you have a lighter, if you have a lighter on you, I have to get the zip up. You want to melt the ends to make sure it doesn't fray on you. If not, just tie a knot at the end of it so it will stay loose. And actually, even if you do get it a little bit melted, I still would recommend a knot. So you stick the knot, make sure it's nice and tight, and you make your slip knot. Then set and ready to go for your posts. Okay. Set that down where you can find it. Did I keep my knife available, or did I just throw it down? Okay, now when it comes to the post, I recommend they be about waist height or taller, because you're going to be sticking them in the ground. And you can see I cut this one with just using a hatchet motion. But what you're going to do is you're going to have to take them both, and at the same height. I would recommend this, so about almost near the top. I would say cut across, okay, on both of them, so you can mark them. And what you want to do is cut a notch into it, so that will keep the string from slipping on you, especially if it's like wind picks up. And you don't need much of a notch, you just need a notch. And with these, you want it as straight as possible, so you're not having a crooked tent. And just slice, go deep, don't go all the way through, just enough that you know that's going to hold the ropes in place. I mean, yes, I said slip knot, but you want something that's going to hold the rope in place so it's not going to slide down. So you take your rope, slide down the pull, and you tighten it. You see this is frayed. Then you take your other pull post and you tighten it, the rope on that 550 cord rope, whatever you want to call it. Alright, depending on where you're at, you may want to sharpen the ends, because I mean, sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's not. Like if you got this issue, you just gotta kind of sharpen it the best you can. But here, I believe the ground is pretty soft today. So what you do is, you'll take one end. I'm gonna try to keep it on camera. You just do your best to get it in the ground, nice and tight in the ground. Well, I guess this ground's a little harder than I thought. So, in the case that it's being stubborn like that, yeah, as I said, I'm no expert, but if you do carry a little handsaw, you can at least lop off that extra limb, just so you kind of get more of a point to it. Alright, there we go. Alright. Put this back in its bag so it's not getting dulled too much by anything else in your pack. And it gets really hot when you're doing stuff, especially out in the sun. Alright, that should give me a much better tip to dig into the ground. Take your other end and pull it tight. And as you can see, you drill it in the ground. Maybe too close to the garage here. Maybe a little close, but just gonna hold the weight. See how that not holding the weight means it's a little too, it's not deep enough. Things are not deep enough, and you go deeper. And in the event of you really need to drill down, you could also do this as trees. It'd be easier. I don't have close enough trees to actually do this. Well, when it comes to certain things, if you need to, take your knife, dig out deeper, kind of dig out around where that pole needs to go. Especially if you don't have a water or you have limited water, dig it out so you can at least put it a little deeper. And if it still does not work, then that's when you use your extra rope to build a tent stakes. Because usually that's what you're going to end up having to do. With most tents is put tent stakes on them. So see how there's still not enough tension on them. So what I'm going to do is build some tent stake line for them. Do that real quick, and Get everything tightened down. I got most of this I did stuff from the military manual I got during basic training. So some of it's you may have already. They may actually were talking about certain aspects. So what we're gonna do is put it over, and you want enough to really tie it to a stake on there. And I'm guessing, because see, as I hold that one's gonna come down. But as long as you have everything shape and tightened down, things will be easier to do. Now, not tying on this end, and then I will do the same on the other side. I mean, it probably would have been easier to do a certain way. Now I'm going to be off screen here, fixing this one. I'll show you on the other side. Oh. Rabbit hole. Actually, I'm going to borrow a piece of one of these. And cut my notch into it. Going. You could also find yourself a rock to tap down on the pegs. That's what I would be using. Alright. So I need another little piece for this peg. And I break it off. Seems a little green. In case that it's gonna start peeling down the side. It's not going to be a big chunk, it's fine. But, as I said, got a notch to keep the rope still. And don't ever leave your tools laying on the ground. I know I've done it. I'm just saying, hey, if you leave it on the ground, you could end up lost, or you can end up stepping on something and hurting yourself. Had a slip knot, and with this kind of thing, it's easy to carry along with you because you're not having to do much. It's light to carry, and yeah, I'm not gonna cut the rest of this rope. Just gonna save it for later. I'm on a budget, as most people know. So gonna make this a slip knot, not just a regular knot. Yeah, I've already, as already, you're like, well, you already cut all that other rope. I know I cut all that other rope. And when you stick these in, you may have to add a little tip to them. That way, it's easier for them to stick in. I mean, you could. Nice thing is, you can always replace these poles with another piece of tree. Stick it in. It's not that spot you can stick it in. In the event that it doesn't stick in, you just take the rock and tap it in. Tap it in, get tight, and it should be tight enough that, yeah, it's gonna bow a little bit, but it's not gonna be too big of an issue. Alright, and you take your poncho or your blanket, need a blanket, and notice how it dips. That's always one thing you're going to have to deal with when it comes to making scarf and poncho. You want to pull it out, and you want to bust these. At least they're cut them in half. I'm just going to bust them. And then just as thick as these are, I'll show you now. These are thicker than I wanted. So I'm going to grab my knife. And make a tip. I'll go quite a ways up. If you're really in a hurry, like, I'm gonna be a minute. If your crowd looks like mine right now, I'd say hurry up and go as fast as you can. Okay? Now, when you do this, you gotta make sure it's tight, and you want to do it this way. You don't want to go from just do one side and then do the other. And I would recommend drink water throughout the process, especially if you're easily dehydrated. And what you want to do with the sticks, when you put them in an angle so when the wind catches them, as you notice, this is extremely high, but it'll help you in the long run. See, now I have one end down, and now I gotta work on the other end. Yeah. As you see, I'm pulling off leaves and stuff. We'll walk around. Alright, and like an idiot, I left my knife. I have a habit of doing that, to be honest. I've putting something down and now leaving it in bad places. No. This is gonna be this stick. It's a little narrower, so I'm just gonna put a tip on it and cut off any like spurs. Basically, you want to put a tip. And you want to make sure it's tight from that side. And then put the stick in. And if you get a part where you got a bird that's causing you to not go in enough, cut it off. Alright. And it looks like it's sagging, but you come around to the side, pull it tight. And pull this one tight to keep it tight. And alright. Alright, now take the stick, make sure everything's tight, and stick it in the ground. Alright, see, and that's a tent. That's a makeshift tent with a poncho. Now, you always want to make sure you close up the hood, though, if you can. So, what you do is pull the hood tight, make sure that's tight, and then you have your tent. Now, with the gear, you can't really get in with the gear because the gear's gonna be in the way. So what I recommend is have your gear sit next to it, and then just slide in. I had it in where the camera stopped. But yeah, there's plenty of space for you to climb in here and bring your gear in to help keep it dry if you need to. I mean, if you got enough lengthways to do it. And if you do have a poncho, you can use the emergency blanket as a means to keep warm or keep yourself off the ground. I even would say recommend, if you have some way of doing it, dig yourself a trench around it if you're expecting rain. And doing the using the emergency blanket as the tent piece, you would have to actually tie a rope off to the end of the of it just to even get it to be able to tack down. But this part would still be the same. Putting up the poles and all that. See, then I just had a tent stake come out due to not being deep enough. But your emergency blanket might be bigger than a poncho, because most ponchos are just a standard size, like this one. This is actually an old army poncho. In the book, they also recommended tying the tent stakes down, putting the tent stakes down and tying the ends off, and then hanging it from a tree so you have it wide spread out, but the edges would be open. And pull it out. See, and this is what the emergency blanket looks like. Well, this one at least. Both sides are shiny. You gotta sometimes be careful. This one's actually not very wide, but I think I chose this one. And it just, I would recommend actually going lower with, if you got a small, depending on the size of your blanket, you may have to go lower. But the wind catch is easier than, well, these are more prone to tear, in my opinion. So what you would do is you tie the end off, make sure it's even, tie the end off, attach the end to a stake, and then you just have to deal with it just would be what it is. I mean, it reflects the heat pretty well, unlike this poncho I have. But they still both provide shade. So you could even just put the emergency blanket over it if you really need a way to get away from the sun. But mainly this is supposed to be trap heat. And I'm gonna bolt that later. But yeah, that's pretty much using the woods, making a poncho into, or emergency blanket into a tent. I will see you next time.